Grandma's will was clear. The cottage was mine. Ashley's Instagram bio: renovating my family estate house with garden. Watch the journey. Hey friends. Got a sec? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe. It's quick for you, but it really means a lot to us. Alright, let's dive into today's story. Original post. I never thought I'd be writing one of these posts, but here I am at 2 a.m., unable to sleep and needing perspective from strangers on the internet. My name is Rebecca, I'm 34, and I'm caught in a family situation that's tearing me apart. 6 months ago, my grandmother Eleanor passed away. She was 92, sharp as a tack until the end, and the strongest woman I've ever known. She raised me for several years when my parents were going through their divorce, and we maintained a special bond even after my mother Patricia remarried and had my half-sister Ashley. In her will, Grandma Eleanor left me her cottage in Vermont, a beautiful 1920s stone cottage on 3 acres with mountain views. It's worth about $450,000 in today's market, but to me, it's priceless. The cottage has been in our family for 60 years. Grandma bought it with my late grandfather after they retired, and it's where I spent every summer as a child. The garden still has the apple trees I helped her plant when I was 7. The kitchen table has marks from where I practiced my cursive writing. Every corner holds a memory. My mother Patricia called me last week with what she presented as a family meeting, but was actually an ambush. She sat me down with Ashley and Ashley's boyfriend Tyler, a self-proclaimed content creator with about 8,000 YouTube subscribers who makes videos about mindful living and authentic spaces. Mom announced that Ashley and Tyler need to move into the cottage. Not asked, announced. Rebecca, honey, my mother said, using that tone that immediately put me on edge, Ashley's career is at a crucial point. She's building her lifestyle brand, and that cottage is exactly the aesthetic she needs to take things to the next level. You're barely using it anyway. Ashley nodded enthusiastically, her perfectly contoured face glowing with excitement. Becca, it would only be temporary. Maybe a year or 2. Tyler and I would take such good care of it. We'd even document the restoration process. Think of the exposure the cottage would get. The restoration process. As if my grandmother's perfectly maintained cottage needed restoring. As if it needed exposure. I tried to explain that I use the cottage regularly for weekend retreats, that I'm planning to spend next summer there working on my novel, that it's my sanctuary. But Patricia waved her hand dismissively. You can still visit whenever you want. It's not like Ashley would lock you out of your own property. But she needs this, Rebecca. You have your stable job at the law firm. You have your nice apartment in Boston. Ashley is trying to build something from nothing. As the older sister, you should want to help her succeed. The guilt trip was expertly deployed. Mom's been perfecting it since Ashley was born when I was 5. Ashley was the miracle baby from her second marriage, the one who saved her after the divorce. I was the reminder of her failed first marriage, the responsible one who never needed anything, who could take care of herself. Tyler jumped in with his rehearsed pitch about how they'd maintain the property, how their content would be honoring the heritage of the space, how they just needed a chance to build their following. He showed me Ashley's Instagram, at Ashley Living Authentically, with its 50,000 followers and perfectly curated photos of her drinking matcha lattes and doing yoga in various picturesque locations. We'd even tagged the location, Ashley said, as if this was some generous offer. Think of what it could do for property values. I said I needed time to think. Patricia's face hardened. I don't understand why you need to think about helping your sister. Family helps family, Rebecca. That's what Grandma Eleanor would have wanted. And there it was, invoking my grandmother's memory to manipulate me. Grandma Eleanor, who explicitly left the cottage to me and not to Patricia or Ashley. Grandma Eleanor, who once told me, that cottage is yours, Rebecca. You're the only one who truly appreciates it for what it is, not what it could be worth. The pressure has been relentless since then. Daily texts from Ashley with links to her posts, showing me her vision for the cottage. Calls from Patricia about how disappointed she is in my selfishness. Even Tyler has been DMing me on Instagram, sending me statistics about the creator economy and how this could be a win-win situation. But here's what they don't understand. That cottage isn't just property to me. It's where I go to write, to think, to remember the one person who truly understood me. It's where I learned to bake bread, where I read my first Jane Austen novel, where I grieved when my grandfather died. Every room holds Grandma's careful touch, the quilt she made, the paintings she collected from local artists, the library she curated over decades. The cottage is also my financial security. I'm a junior associate at a law firm, yes, but I have student loans, and Boston isn't cheap. The cottage is paid off, and if something happened to my job, I could move there. I've even considered renting it out occasionally through a property management company to help with maintenance costs, but I've been selective, only allowing rentals when I personally vet the guests. Ashley has never shown interest in the cottage before. When Grandma was alive, Ashley visited maybe 3 times in 20 years. She complained about the lack of Wi-Fi, the creepy antiques, the way everything smelled like lavender and wood smoke. Now suddenly it's her dream aesthetic? I know what this is really about. Ashley's influencer career isn't taking off the way she hoped. She and Tyler have been living in a studio apartment in Brooklyn that costs $2,800 a month, funded mostly by Tyler's parents and the occasional sponsored post Ashley manages to land. The cottage would solve their financial problems while giving them content for months. But am I being selfish? Is Patricia right that family should help family? I can afford my life without the cottage, even if it would be tighter. Ashley is my sister, even if we've never been close. Maybe I'm holding on to the cottage too tightly, letting sentiment override family obligation. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm being gaslit into feeling guilty for keeping what's legally and morally mine. But the family pressure is becoming unbearable, and I'm starting to question my own judgment. Update 1, 2 weeks later. I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post. Your comments gave me the strength to stand firm, but I'm afraid the situation has escalated beyond what I could have imagined. After reading your advice, I sent a carefully worded email to Patricia and Ashley explaining that while I loved them and wanted Ashley to succeed, the cottage was not available as a living situation. I offered to let Ashley use it for a weekend photo shoot for her blog, supervised, as a compromise. The response was volcanic. Patricia called me immediately, screaming about how I was hoarding family resources and sabotaging Ashley's future. She brought up every time she'd helped me, paying for my prom dress, helping with college applications, letting me stay with her during law school winter breaks, as if these normal parental actions were debts I needed to repay. Ashley took a different approach. She posted a series of Instagram stories about family disappointment and, when blood isn't thicker than water, complete with crying selfies. Her followers flooded the comments with support, calling her family, clearly me, toxic and jealous of her success. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Last Friday, I drove up to the cottage for a weekend retreat. I needed the peace after the family drama. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw Tyler's van parked there. My heart sank. I found them inside, Ashley directing Tyler as he measured the living room windows. They'd somehow gotten a key. I later learned Patricia had taken my spare from when she house sat 2 years ago and had it copied. "Oh, Becca," Ashley said brightly, as if nothing was wrong. "We're just taking some measurements." I wanted to see if my vision would work before we talked more. Her vision, apparently, involved painting my grandmother's hand-carved oak cabinets white, removing the dated built-in bookshelves, and replacing the antique furniture with minimalist Scandinavian pieces. She'd already documented her before tour on her Instagram stories, calling it a diamond in the rough, and my family's estate that needs some love. I lost it. I told them they were trespassing, that they needed to leave immediately. Tyler tried to calm me down, explaining they were just exploring options, and that creative minds need to visualize. That's when Ashley dropped the bomb. "Mom said we could stay here. She's part owner, right? I mean, this is family property." I had to explain, through gritted teeth, that no, Patricia had no claim to the cottage. It was left to me specifically, clearly, and legally. Ashley looked genuinely shocked. Patricia had apparently told her the cottage was family property that I was selfishly monopolizing. They left, but not before Ashley posted more stories. This time, she filmed the cottage exterior, calling it my family estate where I spent my childhood, a complete lie, and telling her followers about her plans to restore this heritage property to its full potential while documenting the journey. Within hours, her followers were commenting on how beautiful the cottage was, how excited they were to see the renovation, how inspiring it was that she was honoring her family legacy. She gained 5,000 new followers over the weekend. I immediately called a locksmith and had all the locks changed. I also installed a security system with cameras. Then I called Patricia to confront her about the key and the lies she'd told Ashley. "I didn't lie," Patricia said coldly. "That cottage should be family property. Mother was clearly not in her right mind when she made that will. She always favored you because you reminded her of herself, quiet, boring, afraid of taking risks. Ashley represents the future of this family. She's building something special." The cruelty of that statement still takes my breath away. Grandma Eleanor wasn't boring, she was thoughtful. She wasn't afraid of risks, she just didn't need external validation. She was an artist, a master gardener, a woman who spoke 3 languages and traveled the world after Grandpa died. But to Patricia, If it wasn't loud and public and profitable, it didn't count. I've had to block Ashley on all social media after she posted a TikTok about toxic family members who hoard generational wealth that got 100,000 views. Tyler has been leaving voicemails about missing a huge opportunity for collaborative success. The worst part? Some extended family members have reached out, having seen Ashley's posts, asking why I won't let her use the family cottage. I've had to explain repeatedly that it's not family property, that it was left to me specifically, but Ashley's narrative has already taken hold in many of their minds. I'm exhausted. I love my sister, despite everything, but I'm beginning to realize she's become someone I don't recognize. Or maybe she's always been this person, and I just refuse to see it because I wanted to believe we could have a real relationship someday. I'm holding firm on my boundaries, but the emotional toll is overwhelming. I never wanted to be the villain in my own family's story, but apparently, that's what protecting my inheritance makes me. Update 2, 6 weeks later. I need to update you all because the situation has spiraled into something I never could have anticipated. After I changed the locks and installed the security system, things seemed to quiet down. Ashley stopped posting about the cottage directly, Patricia limited herself to cold silence during obligatory family texts, and I started to think maybe they'd accepted the situation. I should have known better. 3 weeks ago, I received a call from my neighbor at the cottage, Robert, a retired teacher who's lived next door for 40 years. He was confused because he'd seen Ashley and Tyler at the cottage several times over the past 2 weeks, and they told him they were house-sitting for me while I was traveling for work. I hadn't been traveling. I'd been in Boston, working on a major case. I immediately checked my security system app and found it had been disabled. The cameras were offline. I drove up that night, my heart pounding the entire way. When I arrived, the cottage looked normal from the outside, but something felt off. Using my key, I entered to find subtle but significant changes. My grandmother's paintings had been replaced with generic prints from Target. The antique furniture in the living room was gone, replaced with the white minimalist pieces Ashley had described. The handmade quilts were missing from the bedrooms. But the worst part was what I found on Ashley's Instagram. She'd been posting constantly, photos and videos of her and Tyler living in the cottage, cooking in their kitchen, doing yoga in their garden, hosting dinner parties for other influencers. She was calling it the Authentic Home Series, and had gained another 20,000 followers. The comments were full of people praising her aesthetic, asking for decoration tips, and begging for the address so they could visit this inspiring space. She was careful never to show the exterior fully or give the exact location, but she was presenting my cottage as her home. I called the police, but because Ashley is family and there were no signs of forced entry, they said it was a civil matter. I realized she must have had another key made before I changed the locks, or found another way in. That's when I discovered something even worse. Going through the bedroom she'd been using, I found a folder of documents. Rental agreements. Ashley had been renting out the cottage on Airbnb when she and Tyler weren't there, listing it as Authentic Vermont Cottage, as featured on at Ashley Living Authentically. She was charging $300 a night, with a 3-night minimum. The calendar showed bookings going back a month and extending 2 months into the future. I also found receipts. She'd sold my grandmother's antique furniture to vintage shops in the area, keeping the money. The quilts, handmade by my grandmother over decades, had been sold on Etsy as Authentic Vintage Vermont Quilts for $500 each. She'd made approximately $15,000 from the rentals and another $8,000 from selling my belongings. I immediately took photos of everything and called my colleague who specializes in property law. We drafted a cease and desist letter and began preparing for legal action. But Ashley was one step ahead. She'd already filed paperwork claiming tenant rights, saying she'd been living there with my verbal permission and that I was now trying to illegally evict her. She even had witnesses, other influencers who'd visited, ready to testify that she'd been living there for months. The legal battle was going to be expensive and time-consuming. But then, Ashley made a critical mistake. She posted a YouTube video tour of her cottage, a 30-minute deep dive into authentic living in a family heritage home. In it, she explicitly stated that she owned the property, that it had been passed down through generations to her, and that she was renovating it to honor but update its history. She also promoted her Airbnb listing, encouraging viewers to experience the authentic lifestyle by booking a stay. This was fraud. Explicit, documented fraud. She was claiming ownership of property she didn't own, taking money under false pretenses, and destroying valuable antiques that weren't hers to sell. Update 3, 2 months later. The last 2 months have been a whirlwind of legal action, family drama, and ultimately, justice. After Ashley posted that YouTube video, my lawyer and I had everything we needed. We filed criminal charges for fraud, theft, vandalism, and illegal subletting. We also pursued civil action for damages and lost rental income. Ashley's first response was to double down. She posted a tearful Instagram live, claiming I was jealous of her success and trying to destroy her career. She said the cottage had been promised to her by our grandmother, a complete fabrication, and that I was using my legal connections to bully her. Her followers rallied around her, starting a hashtag Justice for Ashley that trended briefly. Tyler, showing his true colors, immediately distanced himself. He claimed he thought Ashley had permission to be there, that he was just supporting his girlfriend's career. He moved out and blocked her on all platforms within a week of the legal papers being filed. Patricia called me furious. How could you do this to your own sister? It's just a cottage, Rebecca. You're ruining her life over property. I calmly explained that Ashley had committed multiple felonies, stolen family heirlooms, and defrauded people out of thousands of dollars. Patricia's response? She was just trying to make something of herself. You've never understood ambition because you've never had any. That was the last conversation I had with my mother. The investigation revealed more than even I knew. Ashley had taken out credit cards using the cottage address, claiming it as her residence. She'd been selling authentic cottage experiences to brands, charging them thousands for photo shoots at my property. She'd even started negotiating with a production company for a reality show about renovating a family estate, with contracts that would have given them filming rights to the property for 3 years. The Airbnb situation became her downfall. Several guests came forward, upset to learn they'd been renting property under fraudulent circumstances. One couple had spent their anniversary weekend there, paying $900, only to find out they'd been victims of a scam. They pressed charges independently. Ashley tried to negotiate, offering to pay me back for the furniture she'd sold. But it was too late. The district attorney had taken interest in the case, particularly the interstate fraud aspect through Airbnb. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore, it was criminal prosecution. Last month, Ashley pled guilty to fraud and theft charges. She was sentenced to 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and ordered to pay restitution of $23,000. Her Instagram account was suspended for violating terms of service related to fraudulent content. Her influencer career is effectively over. The cottage has been restored, mostly. Insurance covered some of the damages, and I was able to recover a few of the antique pieces from the shops where Ashley sold them. The quilts are gone forever. The Etsy buyers understandably wanted to keep them. But slowly, I'm making the cottage feel like home again. Final update, 4 months later. It's been 4 months since everything concluded, and I wanted to give you all a final update on where things stand. Ashley completed her community service at a local food bank, though I heard from mutual acquaintances that she complained the entire time about having to do menial work. She's living with a friend in New Jersey now, working as a receptionist at a dental office. Her Instagram was reinstated, but her follower count has dropped to under 10,000. She posts occasionally, mostly motivational quotes about rising from adversity and learning from mistakes, but the engagement is minimal. We haven't spoken since the trial. She sent me one text, "I hope you're happy. You got what you wanted." I didn't respond. What I wanted was a sister who respected me and my property. What I got was clarity about who she really is. Patricia and I are essentially estranged. She still maintains that I overreacted, that I should have handled things within the family. She's told relatives that I'm vindictive and jealous, but most of them saw the truth when the legal documents became public. She lives alone now in her Connecticut condo, posting passive-aggressive quotes on Facebook about forgiveness and family disappointment. Tyler, in a twist I didn't see coming, reached out to apologize last month. He admitted he knew Ashley was lying about having permission but went along with it because he was blinded by the potential for content. He's left the influencer world entirely and is apparently in trade school to become an electrician. I didn't forgive him, but I appreciated the acknowledgement. The cottage has become what it was always meant to be, my sanctuary. I've spent the last 2 months there, working remotely when possible, finally writing that novel I mentioned. I've also started a small garden, growing the same heirloom tomatoes my grandmother loved. Robert, my neighbor, has been wonderful, helping me understand the cottage's heating system and sharing stories about my grandparents I'd never heard. I did end up renting it out, but through a proper management company, and only when I'm not using it. The income helps with maintenance and property taxes. I've met some of the guests, families looking for quiet retreats, writers needing inspiration, couples celebrating anniversaries. They appreciate the cottage for what it is, not what it could be for their social media presence. Sometimes I wonder if things could have been different. If Ashley had simply asked to borrow the cottage for a weekend, if she'd shown genuine interest in our grandmother's legacy, if she'd treated the property with respect, maybe I would have been more open to sharing it. But she showed me who she was, and I believe her. The most valuable thing I learned through this experience is that family isn't an obligation to accept mistreatment. Boundaries aren't selfishness. And sometimes, protecting what you love means being willing to be seen as the villain in someone else's fabricated narrative. My grandmother left me more than a cottage. She left me a place where I could be myself, away from the performance and pressure that my mother and sister seem to think is necessary for a meaningful life. In her will, she wrote a note to Rebecca, who sees the value in quiet moments and old stories. Take care of our cottage. It will take care of you. She was right. It has. I still get messages occasionally from Ashley's former followers, calling me heartless. I delete them without reading. I've made peace with being the antagonist in Ashley's story. In my own story, the only one that matters to me, I'm simply someone who refused to let family ties become chains. The cottage stands strong, surrounded by mountains and memories. This weekend, I'm hosting my book club there, women who knew my grandmother, who remember her intelligence and wit and warmth. We'll drink tea from her china, discuss literature in her library, and honor her memory the way she would have wanted. That's all the influence I need. Thank you to everyone who offered support and advice throughout this situation. I'm closing this chapter now, but I'm grateful for this community's wisdom and encouragement. Remember, your inheritance, whether emotional or physical, belongs to you. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise.